All right, let's dive into something pretty big that just happened in the US real estate world. A move that could seriously shake things up for the entire industry. One of the biggest multiple listing services in the country is changing a really fundamental rule. So we're going to break down what exactly happened, why they did it, and what it could mean for how we all buy and sell homes. You know, this whole thing really makes you step back and ask a huge question. Is the entire real estate rulebook actually being rewritten right now? It might sound a little dramatic, but honestly, when an organization this big makes a change like this, it's a question that's suddenly very real. Okay, so here's the headline. Midwest Real Estate Data, you'll hear people call it MRED, just decided to break a link that's been around for a very long time. They're separating access to their all-important listing service from the requirement to be a member of a realtor association. And trust me, this is a much bigger deal than it might sound. Now, to really get why this matters so much, we have to be on the same page about the MLS, the multiple listing service. Just think of it as the absolute backbone of the entire industry. It's that private database where agents put up all their listings and search for homes for their clients. If you're an agent, getting access to this thing is everything. It's not optional. So how is this new rule actually going to work? Well, the most interesting part is that this isn't some sweeping, top-down mandate. Nope, it's all about creating a new choice, a new option for agents and their local associations. MRED provides its data to about 40 different partner realtor associations. And with this change, those associations now get the option to sell MLS access directly to any licensed real estate agent, whether they're an official realtor, a member of the National Association of Realtors, or not. MRED isn't making them do it, they're just opening the door and saying, hey, you can if you want to. You should know, though, this doesn't just happen overnight with the flip of a switch. It's a whole process. First, MRED's owners had to approve the policy change, and that's the big step that just happened. Next, their board has to vote on all the specific new rules, which will include a new code of conduct. And only after all that can each of their partner associations decide for themselves if they want to adopt this new model. So that brings us to the big why. Why would MRED make such a huge fundamental change? Well, according to their CEO, it really just boils down to two key things: expansion and de-risking. First up, let's talk about growth. At the end of the day, MRED is a business, and like any business, it's looking to grow its marketplace and get more customers. Simple as that. And this quote from the CEO, Rebecca Jensen, really says it all. She explains that getting rid of the realtor membership requirement gets rid of an artificial boundary. Basically, it lets MRED push into new areas where this kind of setup is already the standard. It's a classic expansion play. The second major goal, it's all about protection. Right now, the entire real estate industry is getting hit with a ton of lawsuits. So if you're a smart business in this climate, you're looking for any way you can to manage your legal risk. And again, the CEO is super direct about it. She says the change helps us de-risk. By cutting that mandatory tie to realtor membership, they can build a much stronger defense against any lawsuits that might challenge that connection. So this isn't just a small policy change, it's a proactive legal and business strategy. Now, it's really important to understand that this decision didn't just happen in a vacuum. To really get it, you got to zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the national real estate landscape that MRED is playing in. Believe it or not, this isn't a brand new, radical idea. In places like California and a bunch of states in the Southeast, they already have similar rules. These are sometimes called the Thompson states because of old lawsuits that forced this exact split between MLS access and realtor membership. So what MRED is doing is positioning themselves to compete in markets where this is already business as usual. But here's where it gets interesting. Even though this move directly impacts the realtor organization, MRED's CEO was incredibly careful to say this was not some attack on the National Association of Realtors. She went out of her way to emphasize their support for NAR and frame this purely as a smart business decision for MRED. And when you look at the public statements from both sides, you can really see this careful dance playing out. On one side, you have MRED saying, look, this is just a business decision and we totally support NAR. And then on the other side, you've got NAR who isn't criticizing MRED at all. They're just saying, hey, local MLSs get to set their own rules, and we're just focused on protecting the value of the MLS. It's all very professional, very measured. So the million-dollar question, what happens now? Now that this first stone has been tossed into the pond, let's look at what's coming up next and what the future might hold. Okay, so in the short term, MRED's board needs to vote on all those updated rules. After that, the ball is really in the court of those 40 or so partner associations. They each have to make their own business decision, and it's not as simple as a yes or no on MLS access. They also have to figure out if they'll offer other critical services, things like lockbox access or contract forms, to agents who aren't realtors. There are a lot of details they need to hammer out. And that brings us to the one big, lingering question. MRD is a huge player for sure, but it's still just one organization. Now that they've made this move for their own reasons, for growth and for legal protection, will other MLSs across the country look at that logic and decide to do the same? That is the domino effect everyone is going to be watching for.